like the
Really, y'all don't know this, y'all in danger. I'm a threat. I'm a gamble with your life, cause you know that it's okay. It's okay. You know I ain't letting up, my foot is on your neck. Take my word for it, it's a promise and a threat. Really, y'all don't know this, y'all in danger. I'm a threat. I'm a gamble with your life, cause you know that it's a bet. It's a bet. You know I ain't letting up, my foot is on your neck. Take my word for it, it's a promise and a threat. I ain't never really wanna flex my gifts, but I think it's my time, let me check my wrist. You can never dim my shine, I'ma keep on grinding till I reach the tip top. When it's just in my jeans and I ain't looking back, cause I'm feeling like Chris, bro. They can never slow me down, but they need to hate me, now I'm feeling like Chris. Rock with the team, cause you know that we winning, we with it, we going, we flowing again. I might just go by a Benz, I might just blow my advance, whoa. I did it all for the feeling, alive but I'm making a killing. I'm gonna break every ceiling, cause I need a million, but I don't need your money, you can pay me in respect. Cause once I do it big, what's to follow is a check. I need 100 bags, nothing more, nothing less. And the ops feel away, cause I'm next, I'm a threat. Really, y'all don't know this, y'all in danger, I'm a threat. I'm a gamble with your life, cause you know that it's a bet. It's a bet. You know I ain't letting up, my foot is on your neck. Take my word for it, it's a promise and a threat. Really, y'all don't know this, y'all in danger, I'm a threat. It's a gamble with your life, cause you know that it's a bet. You know I ain't letting up, my foot is on your neck. Take my word for it, it's a promise and a threat. I ain't been feeling spectacular, flow so sick it's hazardous. Y'all still suck like Dracula. Zip this beat, let's back it up. And I don't care about critics, cause they talk too much. And I know that I gotta keep on grinding, finding myself. I ain't gonna stop until I know I had enough. Mama, I made it, I know that they see me. I'm popping these bottles just like I'm a genie. I'm glad that you made me get all in my DNA. I'm up my cheeks like I'm working for Frito-Lay. And bet it bag on myself. I don't do this for my health. Every threat is a champion. Got the title, need a belt. I don't need your money, you can pay me in respect. Once I do it big, what's to follow is a check. I need 100 bags, nothing more, nothing less. And the ops feel away, cause I'm next, I'm a threat. Really, y'all don't know this, y'all in danger, I'm a threat. It's a gamble with your life, cause you know that it's a bet. It's a bet. You know I ain't letting up.
Mics are hot. Welcome in to Hardcore Penn State Football. We have to move on from the Ohio State loss. Penn State taking on Indiana on what should be a beautiful day on Saturday. We'll provide you some final thoughts, a little notes from James Franklin's press conference, and we will move on into Indiana, preview that, and get to our fan questions and bold predictions. Thanks for being here. If you're watching live on YouTube, please make sure you've liked and commented and subscribe to the channel. And if you're watching on podcast form, make sure you're subscribed wherever you're listening. Thank you, guys. If you're watching on YouTube, give us a little bit of love. Show us where you are, where you're listening from, and maybe provide us with your bold prediction, your score prediction for the game on Saturday. Shawn, give me 1 second before we go live for the podcast.
Sure. So how we doing tonight in the chat? Another game. Feeling good about this one. I mean, I think if you're not feeling good about Indiana, then there's something wrong with you. So just sit back, enjoy the ride, and have a good time tonight.
All righty. Welcome into Hardcore Penn State Football. I'm Cory Lestochi. With me, as always, the great Shawn Kane. How are you doing today, Shawn?
Hump day.
Wow. That was pretty sad. That was not your most enthusiastic hump day of the show. I can tell you that. That might have been on a lower scale.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Way to bum everyone out, Shawn. Appreciate that. Welcome in, everybody.
Ohio State game still fresh, and we're playing Indiana, so yay. We'll beat Indiana.
Hey, it's gonna be a really nice day on Saturday. I think this is probably the last nice home game. It's supposed to be in the 70s. It's gonna be sunny. Nice. What else can you ask for the end of October? I mean, sometimes there's snow
Ohio
coming
State
down right
win.
now. Yeah, that's true.
But I never get those, so
I feel like you're more upset today than you are on the Monday show.
Maybe it's because I read what James Franklin said at the press conference after practice. Maybe it got me a little irritated.
What did he say? Well, I know what he said, but tell everyone what he said.
He said, and this is from Onward States, not a direct quote. Franklin has mentioned a few times today he doesn't like talking to the media. Well, James, put your big boy pants on. You get paid, more money than I'll ever make per year to talk to the media. And you got beaten again by Ohio State, so I'm not going to really spare any tears for you there, pal.
Yeah, well.
So, and I'll keep it at that.
Welcome in Beetle on YouTube, giving us some love here. Not too much out of James Franklin's Wednesday podcast. Imagine if he had a podcast every week. James Franklin's little mini press conference after practice. Mean Vanover will be a game time decision, which we did not mention that on the Monday show, but Mean Vanover left the game, did not return. It will be a game time decision for Indiana, which Shawn said before the show started probably means he's not going to play. Franklin did mention Jameel Lyons, so that kind of gives you a hint that Jameel Lyons already lost his red shirt. So theoretically, if you could let Vanover rest, you probably would let him rest. So Lyons has done some really good things. Lyons is kind of like a baby of Mean Vanover to a certain extent. Like good, similar stature, good size. Will be a good player for Penn State down the road.
Absolutely, I really like Jameel Lyons. He was one of the, I don't feel like he got enough attention in last year's recruiting class. But really good player, pretty drama-free recruitment too. So he was committed pretty early and never wavered. So I'm expecting big things from him.
Speaking of injuries, Chop Robinson, Franklin mentioned Chop Robinson on Tuesday's press conference. It sounded exactly like it would sound if it was a concussion. Now that's speculation. But the way Franklin said that basically, they should have him back, but they don't know what the medical team is going to do. That to me is like he's got to pass some things before he can get back out there. So it sounded like a concussion. Well, it looked like a concussion.
That's what it sounds like to me too.
But we'll have to wait 100% to see if he gets out there. But those are the two big injury updates. I don't think anybody asked about why JB Nelson didn't play. I don't think anybody asked about any other injuries. So that's it with the injuries. The press conference on Tuesday in general, Shawn, try not to sneeze, not really that tough. Now, I'm not gonna sit here. I want to be clear here. I'm not gonna sit here and go, the media is not tough enough on Franklin. The media is not tough enough on these players and the assistant coach. I understand the frustration that the fans have in that regard, but I will also say this: you also have to get approval for interviews from the same people that the media has to berate, and so, we don't, I guess technically, but some of these people, this is their job, and so they get better ratings, they get better viewership when they have interviews of certain players and coaches. And theoretically, if you berate them too much, they don't have to give you interviews. And so I think you have to walk that line, Shawn, of being honest and asking tough questions, but also phrasing it in a nice enough way where you can still get interviews. And I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but I think it's a tricky line to walk.
But if they all ask tough questions, what are they just going to do? Not talk to anybody?
I think they'd love that.
I mean, maybe. Yeah, I don't really love the idea of access journalism in general. I think it's part of what's wrong in this country. And not just sports, but politics, business. People they want access. And they don't go as hard. I think they don't go as hard as they should. And they treat people in power with kid gloves. Now, James Franklin's not the president of the United States, not the speaker of the House. But in the sports world, he's a powerful person. So he's the most powerful person probably at the university. So, yeah.
Do we have it? We don't have a speaker of the House, though, do we?
They just picked one today.
Oh, nice. That's good.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if it's good or bad, but At least they finally figured out
no
somebody.
opinion there. But yeah, it's good that they finally picked somebody. But yeah, I mean, you have to ask tough questions. And look, there are some people in the media that will ask tough questions. Corey Geiger's one of them, for example. And he struck out with that one a few weeks ago. But in general, he's a reliable person to ask a tough question. Audrey Snyder's another one. But I don't think you should. And I'm not accusing anybody on the beat of doing this, but there are people in the media in general that will kind of sell themselves out for access, and I just couldn't imagine ever doing that. But like I said, I'm not accusing anybody of doing that on the beat. I don't think anybody does that.
No, but I will say that I think some people maybe don't go as hard as they could because they want to have the access, and I don't really blame them for that. I thought Audrey Snyder, you mentioned her. I thought her first article that she had after the Ohio State game, I thought was pretty searing. Like I thought it was pretty didn't hold back any punches there. So credit to Audrey Snyder there. But she's one of the best in the business to begin with. So anyway, they only asked one question about Drew Aller in the press conference on Tuesday. And that question came from T. Frank, of all people, which again, T. Frank, not trying to put myself up there with T. Frank by any stretch of the imagination, but T. Frank watches the film and then usually asks a question specifically about what he saw in the film. And just because I also like watching film, like that always sticks out to me specifically. So I always appreciate T. Frank's questions because it's usually something that I've seen myself. And I always appreciate that. But even if it wasn't a film-related question, I mean, it's kind of terrifying that only one question was about Drew Aller. Now, they asked more questions about play calling. Nobody really asked any questions about like really getting the team prepared just from like what we talked about on Monday from like a psychological, mental aspect of things. Nobody asked about whether or not they'd consider bringing Yursich back down to the field, which I thought was kind of interesting. So there's some things that I wish they maybe got into that they didn't get into. Press conference about 37 minutes. But it is what it is. I didn't think they were as tough as they maybe could have been. And just in general, like, I don't think people really, I see people blaming pretty much everybody except for Drew Aller. And I just know, and Shawn, that if that was Sean Clifford, all the blame would have been on Sean Clifford last year, right? Like they would have blamed him for everything in the world if that was him this year.
Well, and I think they would say, well, Sean Clifford was a 6-year senior, but I remember 2019 as well, which was Sean Clifford's first year as a starter. And he was skewered pretty bad after the Minnesota game. And Sean didn't play well that game, so totally justified. He got hurt in the Ohio State game. So I don't think anybody was really hard on him there. But after the Minnesota game, yeah, there were a lot of tough questions about Sean Clifford. So I think it's only right that there should be above Drew Aller because again, he didn't play well. And there were tough questions about the play calling. They asked about the Bo Prabula package. In general, there were some tough questions about the play calling. Nobody directly, at least that I remember, asked about Yursich specifically, which surprised me a little bit. Just like a good question to ask is like, what were you guys doing for a few weeks? Maybe ask it a little bit more articulate than that. But for real, like, how do you come out in a game like that? And how did you prepare? Like, how was the preparation? And Frank is probably not going to tell you how the sausage is made, but he could give you a general idea, possibly.
You know what I was curious about today when I was watching some film? I was like, do like the position coaches, like say like Stacy Collins, for example, obviously he probably watches cut-ups about special teams first in preparation, but do they prepare, like, does he watch the Indiana offense and say, hey, Manny, like I saw this, I don't know if you saw this or not, he just provided some feedback? Does he go and watch some of the defense of Indiana and then go to Mike Yursich and say, hey, I don't know if you saw this or not. Like, I'm just curious how much time they actually have to go do their own thing rather and enough time to maybe go look and provide. I'm guessing it's not very much, but I'm just be curious, like, do at least the coordinators watch all sides of the ball? And
Well,
because I would argue, like, if you're the offensive coordinator, if you watch the other team's offense, you might even learn something or pick up on something as far as something you might want to eventually, add to your own system. So I think that's an interesting thing that I would love an answer to.
I mean, I know they self-scout a lot, like especially during the bye week. Manny will watch the offense, Yursich will watch the defense.
Right.
I don't know if they do that with other teams, though.
Right.
That would be a question for them to
I'm
ask.
I'm sure James Franklin watches everything, right? But like,
Yeah.
does Manny Diaz, like, how much Indiana defense does Manny Diaz watch this week before? I'm guessing it's not extensive, right? But does he watch at least like the entire Rutgers Indiana game just to kind of get a sense of how things were kind of going? Jack Straw on YouTube says Drew Aller has been on campus long enough to answer big boy questions. He's not a true freshman. I think that's a good way to put it. And to his credit, he did go out there after the Ohio State game and do that.
He did. After the game on Saturday, he did. They tend to rotate their players for media availability on Tuesdays. So I didn't see who were the players today that they had.
I think they had. Well, I don't know if it's today, but Caden Wallace spoke this week for sure, and Trey Wallace spoke this week as well. I think
Wallace's. Okay.
I think that's correct. Don't quote me on it.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean, and after the game, Drew, he's starting quarterback, so he is asked questions. Yeah, and just in general, the presser, it was fine. It's like Cory said, could have been tougher, but I mean, somebody made a point too. I think it was Nate Bauer, and he said they're told a lot, like the media, to ask tough questions. But if you ask a tough question, these coaches, like Joe was the same way, Bill O'Brien was the same way. If you ask something tough, they typically have a good way of dancing around it. Like James will say, like, it's on me to fix it. I think Bill O'Brien used to say something very similar. Joe would say similar things like, look, it starts with me and I got to get better and these guys got to get better, and they kind of dance around it. So they are skilled in getting around tough questions. Now, I still think they should be asked, but I do understand you might not want to waste a question as a reporter.
I think it was Dom DeLuca, not Trey Wallace, that got interviewed.
Sauce man.
Yeah.
Saucy.
No, yeah, I agree with what you're saying there. Franklin did say, the big conversation is always Penn State doesn't do well after their first loss. That's happened many times before. Sometimes it's been accentuating circumstances, sometimes not. Penn State shouldn't have a problem with Indiana. If they have a problem with Indiana on Saturday, then that's a big issue. Take James Franklin's word for it. Don't take his word for it. But it seems like that they're getting over that loss, and quote unquote, it's only one loss is what the quote was today from James Franklin. So it seems like they're doing okay with that.
Absolutely.
He also mentioned taking their frustration out on the next opponent. So take that for what you will.
Yeah, and it is only one loss, and it's important to keep it in perspective. It showed me a lot, but the season is not over by any stretch. Franklin also, I don't know if you got this out of this, Cory. He was asked about what's going on with Michigan. And for those of you who may not be familiar with what's going on with Michigan, there is an analyst on staff who was buying tickets all over the country to different games, future opponents of Michigan. And he was buying tickets to allegedly video the sideline of future Michigan opponents to try to steal their signs. It was some elaborate scheme, apparently. Franklin's answer kind of made me think, and I don't know if you got this out of it, that he knew, and that he was like, he said something along the lines of, there's a general feel, like when you feel like if it's 4th and short and you have a shot play called and their defense is in the perfect set. Now, he didn't say Michigan specifically did that, but it just made me think that I have a feeling he knew, and I have a feeling a lot of the other coaches knew, and that's part of why Michigan is feeling so much heat right now, because all the coaches knew this was going on.
Really, I think Josh Pate had a good way to put it. Like, don't expect the NCAA to do something right away, but the Big Ten and also the college football playoff can kind of do whatever they want, and they don't have to listen to anything the NCAA does. So that's where maybe you should pay more attention, see if anything comes out of them. I think what they'll do, and this is just me going down a conspiracy route, is that they'll just make sure that the officials call a really bad game for Michigan, and Michigan just loses to Penn State and Ohio State. Then you don't have to worry about them getting to the playoff.
I mean, that would be ironic. the Big Ten officials turning on Michigan. I mean, you never know. And what is the percentage? What is the percent chance Jim Harbaugh is the coach when they roll into Happy Valley?
Sorry, I missed that. What'd you say?
If you had to put a percentage on it, what chance do you think? What percentage chance would you say Jim Harbaugh is the coach when they roll into Happy Valley?
The way things have been escalating, I think I'd put it about. I think probably a 25% chance he's not there.
That's about where I am at too. I was thinking 75% chance. I don't think he's there next season, but I think I don't think they'll suspend him. I don't think they're going to cancel anything. I don't think the Big Ten. I don't think they want to be in a position to put their thumb on the scale for this race down the stretch for the Big Ten. It's just, it would be extreme for them to ban them from postseason play. They could do it. Some will argue they may have the justification to do it, but that's a big step. They could suspend. I could see Harbaugh being suspended, though, for the rest of the season. That's possible, but I can't see them being banned from postseason play.
And we have a special guest.
Hi, Adam.
What's up, guys? How we doing?
Good. How are you?
Are we live right now?
Oh yeah, we're
yes,
live.
We are.
Oh, let's go. I mean, I'm sitting here.
Always live.
I'm sitting here eating my my salad for dinner, watching you guys talk about Penn State football, some Michigan football, and I figured I'd just try to jump on, and join the conversation.
Appreciate it. Welcome.
That's fantastic. How are you doing, man?
I mean, I've had better weeks considering the performance on Saturday, but I'm getting ready. I'm calling a UMass game this weekend, so I'm going to see the alma mater. Yeah, everything's good. What I watched your review from Saturday's game. Thought you guys made a lot of really good points. And how are you guys holding up? Are we still down to the dumps? How are we feeling?
I think Shawn's a little bit more in the dumps than I am. I do better the more I watch things over again. It's my way of kind of recovering through it. So I think by Wednesday, I think I'm ready to go into the next week. But I mean, it stings, right? I mean, I think it would make it better if there was a better opponent the next week, and that's just gonna be honest. Like, that's a straight knock on Indiana. Like, Indiana stinks. Like, yeah. If you're playing somebody that would maybe get you excited, I think it makes a difference. But you kind of have to kind of sit on this one for a little bit, unfortunately.
Yeah, I called one of Indiana's games. They're not very good. They almost lost. They went to 4 overtimes with Akron in that game.
Yeah, they won me some, or Akron won me some money that day, actually.
Yeah, that was a Joe Moorhead special to get it down to the 4th overtime and lose the game at Akron. I feel like he's lost a million of those. Yeah, I think I rewatched all the tape from the game multiple times now. I did a little third down breakdown on social media. The overall theme that I keep coming back to is how much Brian Hartline has kicked our ass in recruiting at the receiver position for the last 5 years.
Yeah.
In every spot possible, in every time, every recruit he's wanted, he's gotten over Penn State. And it's why Franklin fired the receivers coach for this offseason. It was evident on the field Saturday who had the better skill position players. When you think about just one of those guys, imagine if Julian Fleming actually ended up at Penn State. He'd be one of our best players on offense right now. Was committed to Penn State and then flipped to Ohio State. Imagine in the portal. I mean, the one area we knew that Penn State had to attack this offseason was the wide receiver in the transfer portal, and we missed. We missed on it. I mean, that's not a knock to Dante Cephas. Like, he's a good player, like, solid guy, can get the job done, but not going to change the game, and we needed a game changer. Imagine if the Florida State kid would have landed at Penn State. Well, what's his name, Florida State kid? Coleman. Imagine if
Keon
Coleman.
Yep.
Imagine if Johnny Wilson 2 years ago would have landed at Penn State instead of Florida State. Imagine if one of these guys, one of the Washington guys they got in from the portal, would have landed at Penn State. One of these guys, they needed an explosive playmaker, and they didn't get it. And it was evident on multiple third down situations, no one could get open, and they were strapped. And it was just magnified how good of a job Brian Hartline's done recruiting wide receivers for Ohio State. So that's the part that's frustrating, because we've known that was an area. And I think the other thing too is where I kind of made a mistake going into the game, and I was actually talking this with Jake Butt today as an analyst, is I really believe that Penn State was more explosive and better on offense than they showed on film. And I defended them a lot at saying, like, hey, you don't need to be explosive when you just play that style of football. They're playing ball control ball. But we all knew at some point they were going to have to be explosive on offense. They were going to have to be explosive to beat Ohio State. They're going to have to throw the football. And I kept convincing myself that they'll do it when it matters. The reality is you have an identity as a team after week 6. And Penn State's identity was that they weren't able to throw the football down the field. And we should have believed it, right? Like, I tried to convince myself it wasn't true. They showed us on film that that's not who they are, and that they're not going to be good at throwing the football. It showed up again on Saturday when I thought they'd be able to, but I was wrong. I should have probably believed what I saw on film, and that they're going to struggle to throw the ball down the field. And they did. They did it at a high level, struggled at a high level on the biggest stage on Saturday. So there's my rant. That's my takeaways from the game.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm just bothered that just once again we go in there, and I mean, it's always something, it feels like. I mean, and this year, I don't know. And one of the questions I wish was asked in a more artful way yesterday at the press conference is, like, what are you doing for 3 weeks getting ready for this Ohio State game, and we come out and look like that? I mean, it's just so frustrating. And we talked about the play calling, and when you go back and watch, it's not as bad as we thought live. But what about the preparation? Like, yeah. I did not expect Drew to look like that in that game.
That's the big thing. Is when I posted that whole third down breakdown, I was partially defending a lot of the calls, right? That I don't think Mike Yurcich called a bad game. There were a lot of plays that were there, plays to be made. Corey, I got roasted for saying that one play would have been a touchdown, the one that you tweeted.
Oh, yeah.
But I stand by it, dude. I take back that it would have been a touchdown. I think it could have been a touchdown. I stand by it. I rewatched it like 10 times after that because I was just getting so much crap on Twitter. I was like, dude, am I crazy here? Like, I think I see it. But at the end of the day, that was a great call. It was a good play, good play call in the right moment. But at the end of the day, it is Mike Yurcich's job to get his guys ready to play. Whether he called the right play or not, if they're not executing it, it doesn't matter. So clearly they weren't ready to play. And I will say, though, man, Drew Aller's going to have a lot of chances. I think Penn State is maybe 1 year early for this. Now, I know we say it every year, right? So, I know it's every year is the year. But next year really is the year when Aller's second year, with all the backs back, with a lot of those guys returning. We got to remember that this was Drew Aller's first start in a big game. And I still believe in him. I think he's going to figure it out. But he did not look comfortable. There wasn't a play that I saw on Saturday that he looked comfortable being out there.
No, yeah, 100%. And That's kind of what I wanted to ask you next. I don't know if you talked to Hack at all about this, but I guess Shawn and I were talking a little bit about this on the Monday show. Obviously, there's things that need to be fixed from like a mechanics perspective. I feel like everything he did really well in the first 5 games just went out the window in this game. But I mean, some of the other things like the anticipation and looking off defenders and just throwing the ball over the middle of the field. I mean, how much of this realistically can be fixed in a couple of weeks? And how much of this is something that it's just going to take, Penn State fans don't want to hear this, but it's going to take until next year to really see improvement on those things.
Yeah. Hack's definitely a better guy to ask on the quarterback side. I'll say I know that there are things that need fixed right away. I think a lot of it in games like that, when you're in the flow of the game, when you lose momentum as a player and as a team, it's so hard to get it back, man. Like football's all about a game of momentum. And Penn State lost momentum early in that game and didn't have it on offense. Drew had no momentum at all. His receivers weren't helping him at all. And when all that starts to crumble, when all that starts to happen, things just start to go bad. They just start to not go your way. We looked that third down cut up. Literally, a new issue came up every single third down. Like at one time the route was wrong. The next time Drew missed the throw. The next time the protection was messed up. The next time they counted the run game wrong and didn't block the safety who came down on the box. The next time, Singleton didn't block well in front of Aller, would have been a first down. There are so many things. So to me, that's all about like they just lost momentum and didn't get it back. I do think Drew's better than the quarterback we saw on Saturday. There was also a big moment in a big stage for a young quarterback. There was a lot of pressure. And let's not forget that Ohio State's one of, if not the best defense in the country, one of the top at least. So yeah, I mean, I'm not worried about Drew's talent. I'm not worried about how he sees the field. I'm really not. I think that he got rattled, flustered, uncomfortable, and lost momentum and never got it back in this game. I don't think if he plays Ohio State, I think if he plays Ohio State 5 times this year, that he would look much, much better than that in 3 out of those 5 games. But things just did not go his way on Saturday.
As a guy who played a lot of football, how important do you think it is to be battle tested? And now, Drew obviously struggled. The whole offense struggled. It's not just him. How important do you think it is to be battle tested going into a game in a few weeks against Michigan?
Yeah, I think it's huge. I mean, the one thing that I'm kind of hanging my hat on is that a lot of times when things like this happen to you, good things can come out of it. And it can be almost a internal gut check moment for the program and for the team. And now you also know that everything's on the line against Michigan at home in a big game in a great environment. I think that it's huge that they got battle tested. I also think it gives the defense a lot of confidence, right? It gives the defense confidence that, listen, we stopped Ohio State. We can stop Michigan. And the offense knows we played our worst football ever that we will ever play against Ohio State, and we almost won that game. We were in it till the end. It was a 1-score game. So knowing that, almost if you flip it around, reverse psychology, gives you some confidence that we still control our own destiny here, kind of. If you beat Michigan, everything's still in front of you, and anything can happen. We know the defense can stop Michigan. As an offense, we just have to be 20% better, and we win that game. So I think it does give them some confidence. Like, we can't be any worse on offense. So let's go play loose and play free because it ain't going to be worse than it was against Ohio State. So go have some fun and trust the defense to stop Michigan. So I do think it's important to be battle tested and to play in that environment, and for Drew to know what it feels like to be on a big stage in a big moment. I mean, yeah, the first game of the year against West Virginia was big. The Iowa game was big, but it wasn't as big as the Ohio State game was. And the Michigan game is going to be just as big. And I think the fact that he's going to have felt those emotions is important moving forward.
I got one more X's and O's question for you. You mentioned, that late safety drop it in the box there, and Penn State was trying to run inside zone, and they just weren't accounting for that player that would come in late, and they wouldn't pick him up. They wouldn't change their double teams to linebackers, etc. How difficult is that when you're running inside or outside zone specifically to pick up on those things at the last minute? Now, Vegaane, who was playing at left guard, redshirt freshman, hasn't been around a lot. Is that something that like he makes that mistake once and he'll learn from it, or is that something that maybe if you just follow your rules, he would have been okay to begin with?
So it's difficult, and I'll tell you why. I actually just filmed a video on it, breaking it all down of how that happens. So that play, the whole offensive line was wrong. So it wasn't just the left guard. If the left guard would have vacated that, like the left guard was going to the right guy according to who they identified as the guy to go to for the offensive line. If you see it, they're all going to the right group. Okay, so like they just didn't account. They didn't push it to the safety. So they're going to, like, what happens on those plays is either the center or in the NFL and in pro style systems, the quarterback identifies the Mike backer. And like you guys hear all the time, quarterbacks go up and go like, hey, 42's the Mike, 42's the Mike. What that's doing on pass and run is setting the Mike, and everyone has rules off of it. So the left guard and the center should know on the rule that we have what's called the +1 backer to the Mike. So if they identify in that play, they identify the middle linebacker as the Mike. The guard knows I go to the +1 backer, the backer next, the one to the left, one to the play side of that backer, and that's who we work to. What happened there is they identified the Mike backer as the backside backer. So that made the guard center play side combo go to the middle backer, not number 7. You follow me? Am I explaining that right?
Yep. No, that makes sense.
So that's what happened. So what needs to happen is the center, I'm assuming in Penn State system right now, is who's doing the pointing. The center, when that happens, needs to change it, and whatever their call is, change the Mike point and say, hey, 22. I think it was 22 as the Mike backer. 22. And that tells everyone, like, 22 is who the center's working to. That's the Mike backer. And now the guard, or however the combos play out, 22 is the Mike, and that the guard needs to work to the +1, number 7. Now, like when I played, Christian Hackenberg pointed the Mike. Christian Hackenberg went up there on all the run plays and saw the whole picture, and he would go up on run plays and point the Mike backer and be like, and in that situation, that's where 7 comes in the box late is what happened. He walked in as they were doing the cadence. Is like that's when Hackenberg would go. He'd start doing his cadence. Like he'd go up, hey, 22's or hey, 44 is the Mike. You know, the number 7 is not in the play. Hack starts his cadence. Hey, wide 20, easy, which means hold on. Number 22 is the Mike. Now everyone knows we're pushing to number 7. Like 7's in the box. We got to block him. Easy. 22 is the Mike. Hey, number 7's in. And then he restarts the cadence. And the quarterback handles it all. That's not the way they do it in the Penn State system. Most college systems, the center does it. And in the pros, the quarterback does it. So the center there really is the one who's at fault, who needs to readjust where everyone's going on the offensive line. I know that was a really technical ball explanation, but that's
exactly what we wanted. That was fantastic. I appreciate that. That's good stuff. They had a lot of miscommunication. There was another play there where JTT came unrushed to the quarterback there. Almost looked like maybe they were running like an RPO to that backside with Theo Johnson, but it ended up looking like Theo Johnson was trying to block him, but it was just busted from the beginning. So there's a couple plays there where you were kind of questioning what the heck was going on. So
there was another one on third down where 44 came in the box from the safety spot, and they didn't account for him that time either. A lot of offensive lines, I just talked about the Mike point. A lot of them have an easy call for it, and they call it a push call. And all it is like as soon as someone sees the guy that like, hey, there's an extra backer in the box to our play side. Again, if that guy walked on to the weak side, it wouldn't matter. We just leave him unblocked.
Right.
Or that's where the RPO comes in. You read him on a pass. But when you walk into the play side, you can't leave him unblocked. Like number 7 has to be accounted for. So there's a lot of offensive lines. I'm sure Penn State has it with Coach Trout. It's called a push call, which just means everyone just yells, whoever sees it, like push. And that tells everyone, push it one backer to the play side. So we got to go one more backer out for our double team. So, yeah, I mean, it's funny because that play does look like the guard. It's like, why are you not going to 7? But when you look at the blocking team, they're blocking it like 7's not in the box.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic. I appreciate you breaking that down for us.
Yeah. Well, hey, guys, Ben's wondering why I'm not watching TV with them and hanging out. So I'm going to have to run here.
All right. Hey, do you want to pick some games real quick?
Oh, yeah, let's do it.
Big 10 games real quick? All right. Well,
let me look at the slate quick. Let me look at the slate.
I can read them off to you as we go through it.
Okay, let's go.
All right. So put your name in here so I can just post it. All right.
So we keep track here, and I'm going to be judged on this?
Correct. 100%.
Oh, absolutely.
People were really
Pressure.
Jason Kabinda did not have a good week the other week.
Yeah.
And I guess that was last week. And a lot of people were excited that they did better than Jason Kabinda. So it's a little bit of bragging rights here. We'll leave Penn State.
How great is Kabinda?
He's fantastic.
Awesome.
I mean,
Awesome.
it was the first time I had to include explicit on the podcast episode because he was just dropping
it.
Oh yeah, but no, he was fantastic. I would say this, and maybe you could answer this, but like, I would be absolutely terrified to practice with that guy because I feel like he'd kill me in practice. Like tenacious.
Yeah, he's a beast. Tons of energy. Wants to be in media. It's funny, we've been talking, and that's why that's why I texted him and was like, you should go on this pod. And yeah, normally it takes more convincing. He was like, yeah, send me the link.
Yeah.
I'm glad it worked out.
You guys came in together, right?
Yeah. No, he's a year younger than me.
A year younger. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but he was in that group of friends. Like, he was in that close friend group of like me and Mike Kosicki and Hackenberg and all those guys. He was one of in our crew.
All right. All these games are outright, so just need a winner. And then at the end, I'll let you choose one game that you'll think will cover the spread for 2 bonus points. So that's kind of where you make your money. I'll leave Penn State for the end. Maryland at Northwestern.
Maryland.
Any comments on why?
Mike Loxley, Talia Tagovailoa, great quarterback. I mean, Northwestern's terrible. So that's
an easier way to say it. Shawn, who do you have?
I have Maryland as well. Maryland has started their October skid. But it's still Northwestern. I think Maryland finds a way to get it done.
I was on the Maryland hype train heavy a few weeks ago. I've certainly toned down my temperament.
Them smart. Although Kevin Sumlin just got a DUI in their bye week. So they are. I don't know if Josh Gaddis is going to be calling the plays then, probably.
I think Gaddis has been calling it, hasn't he?
I assume someone would be calling it because are they co-offensive coordinators?
Yeah,
I don't know.
They're co.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, then maybe they are. I don't know. Loxley doesn't call the plays, does he?
Yeah.
I just imagine Sumlin, like, I was on a couple of podcasts with Sumlin last year. I imagine Sumlin just not being all into it right now.
Clearly not.
Yeah, three
I just
offensive
don't really picture him being like a Paul guy who's calling plays at Maryland. I think that's probably Gaddis, but I could be totally wrong.
I have a weird feeling that Loxley's doing it.
Yeah, maybe Loxley is. Yeah.
Michigan State at Minnesota. Minnesota just got that win against Iowa.
Yeah.
Real quick, did you think that was a fair catch or not?
Man, that is. It's the rule. So, like, that is the rule, and they've been relatively consistent calling it that way. I've been in multiple meetings, analyst rules meetings, where they show us clips like that about why that gets called and why you can't do it, and clips where they showed also clips of where someone waves guys away like that, and the defense thinks, or the punt team thinks it's a fair catch and, like, stops running, and then they don't call. So, like, that's definitely a point of emphasis for the officials this season. I mean, so I'm not going to bash the call because they're just doing their job. Just one of the all-time worst timing calls ever. I mean, it just like couldn't be any worse from a timing perspective. It sucks because like to change the game on that and basically flip the outcome because of that call is terrible. But again, that is the rule, and they've been very consistent calling it that way.
Gotcha. Well, Minnesota has a Floyd of Rosedale back in its trophy case, which is one of my favorite trophies of all time. Taking on Michigan State at home this weekend. Who do you have?
I'm absolutely rowing the boat. I'm rowing it all day. I think Tyler Nubin, their safety, is the best in the country.
Nice pull.
What's that?
That was a good pull right there.
Yeah, they're one of my good buddies is the coach on their staff and was telling me just about their defense and how they've been playing really well. And Minnesota, their stretch coming up now. I think Minnesota's got a chance. I mean, they're don't sleep on them in the West now, guys. I mean, we're talking. I think they have this game. They have like Illinois and then Purdue coming up. Like they got a chance to win 3 in a row here.
Shawn?
I'm taking Minnesota. Michigan State might be the worst team in the Big Ten. I'm not 100% on that. I'm still trying to identify that worst team, but they've been very, very bad. So I'm taking Minnesota. I'm also rowing the boat.
Yeah, you betcha. I'm taking Minnesota too.
A trivia question for Corey and Shawn.
Okay.
You can't use Google. Don't look at it. Don't look anything up. Where was PJ Fleck an assistant coach at when he offered me a scholarship in 2012, maybe 11? What's cool? Don't look it up. I know this. Shawn, don't look it up.
I'm not. I think I know, but I'm not positive.
Go for it, Shawn. I have no idea.
Rutgers.
Boom. Wow, you know your.
That was easy.
Okay.
That was easy.
I just saw that. I actually just saw that him and Shiano used to coach together. So I didn't know that until very, very recently. So I just kind of put 2 and 2 together.
He was like a young 28-year-old receivers coach at Rutgers, just like the dude that was wearing cleats to practice and like running routes with the receivers. Yeah.
Dude, that was fantastic, Shawn. You covered my ass right there. That was fantastic.
Yeah.
Shawn, Shawn's got we always talk about this on the offseason, but Shawn definitely, like, historically wise, blows me out of the water and when it comes to football knowledge. So that was good. He covered me.
He did not hesitate one bit on
that. It's like he was planned.
Give me a real question, dude. Come on.
I know a thing or two.
I saw the Sickos committee came out with a scenario where everybody in the Big Ten West could be tied at the end of the year, which is pretty awesome. So speaking of that, Purdue at Nebraska. Matt Rule had a lot to say about the Michigan signals stuff the other day about putting the mics in the helmets, blah 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 blah. Purdue's not a very good team. Who do you have?
Nebraska. I like what Matt Rule's doing. Did you see Nebraska just sent a 18-wheeler truck to the recruits game?
That's odd. I wonder like what's inside of it though. Like, is it full cash or corn?
I was gonna say $100 bills. Yeah, probably. Yeah, who knows what's inside of it? Probably some cash. I think I saw his comments about the radio and the helmets. I also saw Franklin's. I've been seeing everyone talk about the radio and the helmets, and that I kept going back to what Franklin said. But I saw a guy tweet about it like last week or when this broke earlier this week. It doesn't solve the issue. Like teams in college don't want to huddle. So they're still going to have to signal plays. But, I mean, guys, like, I heard you talk about the Michigan thing a little bit, not to get off the rails here, but from a guy who has been on coaching staffs and been around it a while, every single college football team has a protocol for how they, 1, protect their signals, and 2, steal signals. I mean, that is like a well-known thing in college sports that, hey, do we have anyone on our staff that's great at watching signals and can remember them and try to steal them? And you're not stealing like – oh, we know that if they signal this in, they're running the ball to the left every single time. You're really getting like tendencies or, hey, you know that every time that they use something on the hip, it's a run play. Or like, you know what I mean? You don't really know details, but you can kind of get a feel for things. Or, you know, like, hey, every time that the coordinator starts it with his ear, like they're always in zone or it's always a blitz somewhere. So like, that's really what it is. But that's all happening during the game. You have a guy in the press box who's watching and may relay information to the coordinator. But what Michigan's doing, if it's true, is completely crosses the line from what's allowed. And also that guy, ultimate football guy, Connor Stallions. You see he had like a 600-page manifesto?
Yeah, the manifesto, yeah.
I mean, dude, hey, I don't know, but like, if I'm ever coaching in the future, I want that guy in my program.
Yeah, I mean, you got to be an animal to be as tedious as that, right? Right, yeah. Exactly.
Anyway, I'm off the rails now.
No, that's good. Yeah, I don't think it's a huge deal as far as making a huge difference in the games. Like people are kind of going crazy at that, but it's just the principle of it, right? Like it's the principle of tainting the game. Shawn, Purdue, Nebraska.
I went with Purdue, and I don't have a big reason to go with them. It's just kind of a gut thing. Just not very impressed with Nebraska this year, and Purdue, they're good for an upset every here and there. I know they're not very good. I'm not crazy about either of these teams, but I'm going to go with Purdue this week.
They broke my heart after that Purdue-Illinois game this year, so I'm not on the Boilermakers anymore. Ohio State at Wisconsin, AB. Any chance Ohio State comes out sluggish in Camp Randall?
No chance. You said it's at Wisconsin? Yeah. No. No. They do not.
Oh, okay.
They'll run them out of the stadium. I do think that one of the most impressive things that I really saw for the first time this past week was the first time I watched a full Ohio State game, like full all 22 coaches film. The ability they have to get Marvin Harrison the ball when everyone in the stadium knows it's going to him is really remarkable. Like, it's something I don't know if I've seen a whole lot. There are multiple big moments where everyone knows he's touching the football and they just find ways to still feed it to him. I think that's why he's he's a potential Heisman candidate. I picked him just on this Big Ten Network show as my midseason offensive player of the year in the Big Ten. But yeah, I think Marvin Harrison Jr. is the most impactful player for their team in the Big Ten, and he's going to have a field day on Wisconsin.
Yeah, Franklin mentioned today that, or I guess it was Tuesday, that they thought they kind of lost awareness on Marvin Harrison a little bit as that game went on. So
how does that happen? I don't really understand that.
No, I'm not really quite sure either. I will say that they had to go to so much more zone because unfortunately Kalen King was getting cooked, and that kind of changed the complexity a little bit. Shawn, Ohio State, Wisconsin?
Yeah, I'm going with Ohio State as well. I think Marvin Harrison, if I had a Heisman vote, maybe one day I will, but if I did, I would vote for Marvin Harrison Jr. I think he's the best player in America. And I think Wisconsin's going to be fine in the future, but the future is not now. So go on Buckeyes, Buckeyes big.
The future is not now. That's why I'm going to start using that saying.
Yeah, it's the size. It's the size. I don't think people realize that he's 6'3" as well as that fast and good hands and everything else. Like, just crazy.
I do think Wisconsin-wise, Wisconsin had a complete change in identity this offseason. I feel like people forget about that a lot of times with their new offensive coordinator. What's his name? I'm forgetting his name now. Their new OC, Phil Longo. With Longo coming in there and like it just a complete change in identity. So I think it's going to take time, but I think they're on the right track and Fickle will figure it out.
All right, last thing for you here. So you get to choose. You can choose either team for these 3 games to cover. So you can choose either Michigan State covering at Minnesota or Minnesota covering. Minnesota's favored by 7.
Yeah.
Wisconsin is 14.5 dogs against Ohio State, and Northwestern is 13.5 dogs at home against Maryland. So you can take any 6 of those teams to cover.
Okay, hold on. So we got Wisconsin.
Ohio State, that's 14.5. Minnesota, Michigan State, Minnesota's 7.5 point favorite, and then Maryland's 13.5 favorite on the road at Northwestern.
This is easy for me. I'm going. Actually, hold
on. Maybe not that easy.
No, I was gonna say Minnesota to cover the 7-point spread, and I started thinking about Minnesota's offense, and
right,
it gave me chills down my spine.
Not a big fan of their quarterback there. I know we talked about this a lot. Like, he's struggling in a wide out, and we're like, okay, it's his first game, but I don't think he's got that much better.
Let's go Maryland to cover the 13. Is it 13.5?
Yep.
Yeah, I like it. Maryland covers 13.5 against Northwestern.
Didn't you just say Ohio State was going to run Wisconsin out of the stadium? Now you don't want to cover the 14.5?
Yeah, I debated. I feel like that was too easy of a pick, to be honest with you. I wanted to spice it up a little bit. Like, I couldn't pick Ohio State.
Okay, before you get out of here, I'm assuming you're going to take Penn State to win on Saturday. Do you want to give us a score prediction and then maybe a bold prediction?
A bold prediction or bold?
Bold, B-O-L-D.
You guys really put me on the spot here. I was just trying to call in and talk some ball.
Yeah, well, I mean, what do you expect? It's never going to be easy with us.
I should be more prepared when I come on hardcore PSU pod.
Hey, you try to put Shawn and I on the spot, and we were just prepared.
Yeah, you guys are ready to go. You guys are listening to questions. Like, in case Adam pops in, here's.
Yeah, we texted. Yeah,
so I'm going questions. Penn State. I like score prediction. 28 to 14.
That's not instilling very much confidence in
the offense.
and everything.
Yeah, I'm not going to be a happy camper if that's the score.
What's the spread?
30. It's around 30 right now.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a little bit of a closer game than that. I think Indiana covers the spread there, but I do think. I mean, listen, it's a Big Ten game. Like, I don't think that Penn State's going to beat them by 30 points. I don't, but I could be wrong. Maybe I am. 28-14 is my pick.
20 or 28?
28-14.
Yep. Okay, gotcha. Do you have a bold prediction?
Hey, if it's 20-14, we're in trouble. My bold prediction is that it may not be bold, but I think after all the online scrutiny and everything, that we're going to see Singleton and Allen end up getting 40 combined touches, maybe 35 combined touches. I know it's not Super Bowl. That's what they should get every game. There's normally in football, we always had a 40 rush rule. If you can rush the ball 40 times, you win most of those games. So I'd like to see Penn State try to do that on Saturday and get Allen and Singleton, their two best players in offense, more involved because they certainly weren't involved enough on Saturday.
Okay, I have to ask you since you just brought it up real quick. Would you rather see that than see Drew Aller throw the ball 50 times and just kind of unload any sort of frustration or silence the doubters?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would like to see them throw the ball some more. I think in those touches that for Kaytron Allen and Nick Singleton, those are going to be some pat receptions.
Okay, fair enough.
I think that's what I mean. Like creative ways to use them out of the backfield, use them in the one thing that really disappointed me in the Ohio State game from a play calling perspective is there was the lack of perimeter screens, like no screen game, the lack of getting the ball in the perimeter. There was none of it. So I think that's part of it. But guys, like we know what Penn State is. You know what I mean? Like we can't now at week 8, week 9 become a different team. Penn State can't throw the football. They're not good at it. So like you're not playing like Bucknell. We're playing Indiana. So you still got to go try to win the game. I don't think they're going to come out and throw the ball 50 times. They're going to run the ball, try to use some play action. But yeah, they got to be much better and more efficient at throwing the football. But I don't think we're going to see a change in identity for Penn State just trying to throw it around the yard right now. If they're going to win games, it's going to be because they can run the ball and be efficient on offense. We've learned it. We've seen the film. They can't push it down the field. We don't have the playmakers.
Yeah, that's a good point. AB, what's next for you? What's coming up next for you as you get out of here?
UMass Army game Saturday noon, CBS Sports Network. So if you got what time's Penn State, noon?
Yeah.
Yeah, so just like flip back and forth between the Army game and that game if you guys want. And then yeah, we're at I'll be at Michigan, the Michigan game at Penn State. I'll be there for the whole weekend, so should be good.
Sounds good.
Yeah,
well, appreciate you
hopping on with us. Killing it. Appreciate everything you guys are doing. It's great content and cool to see the following grow and being as engaged as they are. So keep it up.
Awesome. Thank you, AB.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, AB.
Did he freeze?
I think he is frozen.
Let me get him out of here. There we go. That was a nice little surprise.
Yeah, I did not expect that. I was like, oh, who's joining? I was like, oh.
Yeah, that's why when you asked me that question and I didn't answer, I was being rude, but the reason I was being rude was because they were texting like, hey, well, I'll hop on the show. So I was like, oh, okay. So yeah, that's why I was being rude.
No, it's okay. I can forgive you.
Would you please forgive me?
I think I could find it within myself to forgive you, Corey.
Okay, that was awesome. I feel like we talked a lot there. Anything on Ohio State before we move on to Indiana? Are we good there?
I mean, at this point, we're almost beating a dead horse.
The horse is dead and ran over and pretty much been incinerated and then cremated and then thrown into the ashes across the Grand Canyon.
Good way to put it. Yeah, I mean, we basically talked for 2.5 hours about the Ohio State game, and it's not going to stop. It's not going to stop being just an unfortunate game and a missed opportunity. It's just not. But you can't dwell on it either. Well, we could dwell on it, but the players can't dwell on it. And I think James Franklin kind of emphasized today at the Wednesday press conference something I didn't have a problem with what he said was you gotta get over it. Like you gotta stop thinking about it, and that's the only way that you could. That's the only way you move on is to just get it out of your head and compartmentalize and get ready to and hopefully beat Indiana by more than what AB thinks we're going to beat Indiana by.
That did not make me feel very good. I'm gonna be honest with you.
It makes me a little queasy. I might be more upset next week. All right, maybe not more, but almost as upset next week if we barely beat Indiana.
Yeah, let's see here if I can get things to show up the way they're supposed to show up here. Let's move to Indiana. Like AB said, not a very good team, Shawn. We went into the year telling everybody that Indiana's going to be awful. They are awful. Switching quarterbacks now. We'll talk about that in a second. But just overall, not a good team. I had that fun stat that I was trying to show up, but now it's not popping up. But Indiana has not scored in Beaver Stadium since 2019, Shawn.
Wow. I just did the Owen Wilson thing. So
I still have that. Hold on. I don't know if you heard of that or not.
I did not. There we go. So in 2019 and in 2021, they did not score on us. I knew in 2021 they didn't.
No, and they scored in 2019.
Okay.
So just once. But still, it sounds cooler when you say it that way.
Okay. Yeah. And then 2020, I mean, pain. And then 2022, we ran. I think we ran all over them last year. So kind of a forgettable game in a way. But yeah, not a great football team. The one area that they actually do all right in is actually passing defense, ironically enough. They are ranked, I just had it here. And by all right, I mean not like pathetic. I'm sorry, I just had it.
No, while you're looking it up, I was just going to say that I was able to get the Indiana fun facts up there.
Oh, 23rd. They're 23rd in pass defense. So in the
23rd in pass defense, but I wasn't going to show you the defensive stats just yet, but I will since you brought it up. They are 72nd in yards per attempt allowed. So not bad, but not much better. I'll get the defense in a second. Did you like my first fun fact there?
I read it quick. And I was like, huh? Like, oh, yeah.
Oh, you probably thought something else was happening there.
I did. So it's funny for a couple ways.
Funny for a couple. I didn't even think of that way until right now, but now it is. If you're listening on podcast, you have no idea what we're talking about. One of the benefits of watching on YouTube. But hey, 96th in scoring defense and 124th in scoring offense. I'm not going to give away my whole prediction, but AB had 28-14. If Indiana scores 14 points on this defense, I will donate $5 to AB's charity of choice. How about that?
Very fair. Yeah, that's something that really stood out to me is they give up a lot and they don't score a lot. And Cory, I've been watching football for a long time. I have yet to see a team that wins many games that they give up a lot of points and they don't score a lot of points. I have a feeling that's not the way it's done.
You really try to avoid that. Also, -4 in the turnover margin.
Yeah, again, that's one thing that Penn State has done extremely well this year.
Too well, you could argue.
Yeah, too well. When little side thing, when Tua threw that interception on Sunday Night Football, I turned to my dad and I go, I know one quarterback who would not have thrown that interception.
Oh, man.
Yeah, but -4 turnover margin. Yeah, again, not winning football. Indiana does not play winning football. Bottom line.
Defense. Franklin made an interesting note. They've got kind of like they got like 3 hands in the cookie jar when it comes to defensive coordinator. Tom Allen, a lot of experience, and they got like 2 co-defensive coordinators over there. One's calling the plays, but it seems like it's kind of a mess as far as who's calling the plays on defense right now over there. It's kind of what I took from it. Were you going to say something to that?
No.
Oh, okay. 4.66 yards per carry allowed on the ground. So I think AB is 100% correct. Like again, though, how many times, Shawn, have we said this is a good game for Nick Singleton and Kajon Allen to get going? At what point are you just like, it reminds me of like the Scooby-Doo characters where they would start running, but they wouldn't actually like move anywhere yet, and then they would go. It's kind of like, I feel like what's kind of going on there to a certain degree.
A little bit.
For that split second, when Nick Singleton broke those back-to-back runs, I was like, of course, this is going to be the game that he decides, everything decides to work.
Yeah, I did too.
But Ohio State changed things up, and Penn State could not do anything after that. Aaron Casey, he actually led the team in tackles last year. He's leading the team in tackles again this year at the linebacker position. 3 sacks, a forced fumble, almost 60 tackles. Just a tackling machine. I will say this, Shawn, and this is something that I've realized over the course of me watching football. When you have a leading tackler that has a bunch of tackles, I feel like usually those defenses aren't the best. Like the best defenses has a pretty balanced like tackling. You don't want one guy having to make all the tackles. Like you want to see your safeties in there. You want to see your defensive ends in there. You want to see a mixture.
I think that's what made the guys like Dan Connor and Paul Posluszny so impressive. Like we had a great defense and they still put up a ton of tackles. So I think like when you look back at, because generally I agree with you.
Different era too, though.
Different era. Yeah. I mean, everybody ran sort of a quasi Iowa scheme. Iowa's actually more conservative than a lot of the offenses from back then. But that was the Big Ten back then, really pre-Urban Meyer. And then Urban came and everything changed. And yeah, but as a general rule, you don't want one guy making every tackle because that guy's not going to make every single tackle. So then who else is doing it?
Right. I wanted to mention the safety there, Philip Dunham, because 43 tackles, 3 interceptions. He's had a really good year. He's actually somebody that I don't think we mentioned in the summer. However, he is banged up. He is questionable to play on Saturday, and that's a big loss. Actually, Indiana has 2 defensive backs that are probably not going to play. Philip Dunham, he's questionable, and then Noah Pierre is officially ruled out for this game. 2 defensive backs out. If there's ever an opportunity to maybe take a couple more shots, just pull a Corey Geiger and just chuck it. I feel like this is the game to maybe do that.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's like the Singleton and Allen thing. How many times are you going to say this is the time that this is going to happen, and it just doesn't happen? The thing is, though, Corey, I don't think you have to change the offense very much to take a shot here and there. I don't. You think about the great ball control offenses, and there have been, especially in the NFL. They still take shots. It's not like something where they just dink and dunk the whole game, unless you have a quarterback who doesn't have an arm at all. At that point, sometimes it does.
We disconnected for a second, but I think we're good. Sorry if we lost you guys for a split second there. The last thing I was going to say was Indiana's allowing 366 yards right now. Penn State is putting up 400 yards. So, like, Indiana is literally almost giving up as many yards as Penn State's putting up, which is just crazy to me that it's that high. So, a big opportunity to get right on the offensive side of things.
Yeah, and I think that has to be the theme for this week is get right and get back on the horse and lick your wounds. And then, I mean, nobody trolls Maryland more than I do, but you can't sleepwalk through Maryland in 2 weeks. And you can't get caught. And then when you play Maryland, you can't get caught looking ahead to Michigan. So I think this is time to get right. It would be nice to see, Drew play his best game, for example. And I would like to see one of these running backs get over 100 yards. I think just from a mental perspective, I think those are the kind of building blocks that could lead to, some success down the road in a game like this.
Yeah, I apologize if we're having some technical difficulties here. I think we're okay. Let us know on chat if you can see us. I see we dropped some frames. I'm unsure. We'll keep riding the storm, and hopefully things kind of even out.
Other dimension to them. He was a first team All-American kick returner too, so also from special teams. And if you're Indiana, you're going to just try to find ways to get Jalen Lucas the ball, I think, in a game like this, because athletically, he is one of your guys that belongs on the field with the Penn State defense. And I think the best way for you to be able to move the ball is be able to get Jalen Lucas the ball in space.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And I'd be curious to see, because like Lucas to me is like probably their best receiver, to be honest with you. Like they got Cam Camper, which we always love that name. I feel like we talk about that name all the time. They got I can't remember his first name right now, but Macaulay. He's a very athletic player too. And then Omari Cooper, not Amari Cooper, Omari Cooper. We mentioned him. He's a former 4-star receiver. He had a touchdown last week, but I think he's a guy, maybe not so much this year, but next year to pay attention to down the run. But honestly, I think Lucas is one of the guys that they're going to try to get the ball to, like at least 10 to 15 touches in different ways.
I'd take him on my team.
Your all Big Ten team?
Nah, I'd take him on Penn State.
Right now?
With Tom Allen, Tom Allen's on the hot seat a little bit.
Would you take Tom Allen come in as like a defensive analyst? I guess I just want him. I would just want him to come in and give the speeches.
Yeah, as an analyst, I would. He brings a lot of positive energy, which I like. I don't think I'd take him as a coordinator necessarily. I just don't think he's done enough to be a defensive coordinator at a place like Penn State, in my opinion. But yeah, like if this Tom Allen thing blows up, Jalen Lucas hits the portal, I'll take him on my team for sure.
Yeah. One last thing I want to mention about Indiana's offense. Their offensive line last year was awful. We said in the summer they needed to be better. They actually have been better. Like last year, they were like the worst in the Big Ten at sacks allowed and TFLs allowed. Now they're middle of the road in the country, 41st in sacks allowed, 55th in tackles for loss. So they're not like good, but they're a lot better than they were last year in that standpoint. So Penn State, I think they're at like 29 sacks now. And I said they need to get to 50, so they still got 21 more sacks to go. I'm not saying they need to get like 10 against Indiana, but they could get like 4. That would go a long way. The 2 last week did not help me. I thought they would get more than, well, the 1 didn't count, which would have helped for a lot of different reasons. But I was hoping they would get a little bit more there. And also it would have been helped if Penn State had the lead, because then they would have to throw the ball more in obvious passing situations. So what are you gonna do?
Yeah, I mean, that particular play actually frustrates me more after the game, like during the week, which I think a lot of people, it's the opposite. Like that's the first thing they think of, where I always tend to put it more on the team and what the team could have done. And yeah, Kalen could have just not held that. That would have been very helpful. But then like the more you think, you're like, God, if that doesn't happen, what happens? This penalty that had nothing to do with the play, that doesn't happen, do we win? And it's just one of those unanswerable questions, I guess. A lot like this, and our group chat, our friend brought it up to us. It was a lot like the 2015 Saquon run, where at Ohio State, where if he's not, and if Brian Guy doesn't hold away from the play, does Penn State have a chance to pull an upset? Now, that was a mismatch between 2015 Ohio State and 2015 Penn State, but it's just one of those things that remains in your head. And I don't think that team would have won, but I do think this team would have had a much better chance of winning if that penalty is not called. But what are you going to do? Don't hold.
Yeah, and AB spoke about momentum, and maybe the momentum changes things, and then the offense gets going. But I still am thinking to myself, do they find a way to really score? Because that wouldn't have been enough points, right? That they would have needed to find a way to still score some more points. Before we move on to the fan questions, I just wanted to show the Pick'em scoreboard. I don't think I showed the scoreboard on Monday's show. I wanted everyone to just really understand that I'm on top. And I will say this. I did do the other Cory's math wrong, which I've done Cory's math wrong twice now, which maybe it's because he has an E in his name. I'm not sure, but I always mess up his math. He's actually at 74. So there are 3 people at 74. And then you got 2 people at 73, and then Shawn at 72. So a lot of people are close.
Still within striking distance, could still get it done.
Yeah, it's possible. Shout out to Andrew Redding, who only got 2 points this week.
He did really well last year, didn't he?
I think so. I think he did.
I thought he did. Yeah, I remember hearing his name a lot last year.
Anyway, I appreciate you guys all doing it. We've had a really good show in this year. This isn't obviously everybody. It's just been people that have been consistent with it at the top. But anyway, it's been a lot of fun. Make sure to get your pick 'em in. It is in the description if you have not done it already. State Media, Shawn, I don't know if you even knew this. State Media has a newsletter.
I did not know this.
Yeah, and
this is not an advertisement either. Tell me more, Cory.
That's really funny. Anyway, they email out, our podcasts and stuff in this newsletter, which I did not know. They are actually going to, I don't know when that's going to happen, but they are going to put the pick'em in the newsletter.
Oh,
so a lot of people are always like, oh, I wish I would get an email about what the pick'em score is. And I wish I would have a reminder somewhere to go do the pick'em. Because right now you have to find the link somewhere on Twitter or whatever. Sign up for the State Media newsletter. Get to pick them every week. You don't have to worry about it.
Sign up. I know I will be.
Yeah. I think Ben signed me up already, but I'm not sure if that actually happened. I'll have to double check that. Anyway, fan question time. Only three today. We answered. Well, we had to listen to you guys complain all Saturday and Sunday and Monday, so only doing 3 today. This question here is from Einstein von Braun. Mister. Historically, we have not been strong after a loss. How does a team regroup after last week and make sure they take care of business this week while getting mentally ready for weeks ahead? Shawn, do you want to take the first crack at this?
Yeah. So Penn State, they practice on Sunday. They're off on Monday. I think Sunday, you take a hard look at film. I'm not really a believer in throw the tape out unless maybe you lose 60-0. I think there's always stuff to learn, always, and especially in a close loss. So you look at the film on Sunday. You stay open to being criticized, but you don't get too down on yourself. Don't be afraid to call out what happened, and don't let your feelings get hurt. And then after you watch the film, after you make corrections, you move on, and it's like it never happened. And you learn. So basically, you learn, you take the heat, move on. Simple as that. I mean, I don't think it requires a very fancy answer. I just think that I think it's pretty simple, actually.
I'll make it even simpler. Throw an effing bomb for a touchdown in the first play. That's how you regroup. Have a big turnover in the first play. That's how you regroup.
Fine with me.
Easiest way to forget about a loss is to win. Should put that on a shirt.
I like winning.
Yeah. And you know what? Not to dig up Ohio State one more time, pick that scab right again. Kind of forget that it was a close game. Like when you said it was a close game, like, yeah, it was a close game. And
8 points.
the things to take out of that and to grow upon that.
Yeah.
And,
I mean, really, and I know, like I said, Penn State fans still didn't want to hear this. It's not that bad of a loss. It's an 8-point loss on the road to the number 3 team. So the committee, I don't think they're gonna lose their minds about that loss if we ever get there. I mean, and so everything's still in front of us.
Absolutely. This question's from Todd. I really only took this question because he also used the word bamboozled, which is the name of the episode on Monday. So just because of that, I mean, you use the show name, the episode name in your question, you're going to get on the show. So thank you, Todd. His question: should Drew have played more snaps, even though we were up big in a lot of our previous games? Do you think the coaches were also bamboozled? I would like to see more passes to multiple wide receivers against Indiana. I also asked people what they'd want to see for the Indiana game, so that's why that happened. I will answer this by saying the only reason you should have played Drew Aller more in those games where they're up by a lot is if you're going to throw the ball. Like, he doesn't need to be in there to hand the ball off to people. So I would say no, but because I know they wouldn't throw the ball more, but maybe like the Northwestern game when it wasn't that big of a blowout, you could have left him in there, have him throw the bomb to Trey Potts. But no, I don't think you can really do it. I mean, you can do it that way. I have no issue. They just want to put up 85 points the rest of the year and have Drew Aller play the whole game. That's cool with me. But like, that wasn't the reason they lost the game in hindsight, which I think is what Todd's getting at.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it would have made a whole lot of difference playing Drew. Giving him 25 more reps in the big game in the midst of the first half of the season. I don't think that would have done it, in my opinion. Do I think the coaches were bamboozled? A little bit. I mean, we came out with, Norzad pulling, which was smart by Yursich, and then Jim Knowles adjusts, and then it's like, well, I don't know, he adjusted. I mean, that's not really what you want. You have to counter the adjustment. And I don't think Penn State did a good job of that. So yeah, in a way they were a little bamboozled, except Manny Diaz. That man is awesome.
That Manny. Last question here.
God, I hope he stays.
You're just pulling out all the negative vibes tonight, Shawn. You're really pissing me off.
What do you mean?
The way you started the show, then you just low key throw in there, man, I hope he doesn't leave. Like, let's enjoy the time. Enjoy the time while you have him. How about that?
I'm actually optimistic he's going to stay.
What do they say? Don't cry because it's over. Like, smile because it happened or something.
But when we watch Ohio State every year, we go, don't smile because it happened, cry because it's over.
Shouldn't you be smiling that it's over?
True. It's over. So we don't have to think about that for a year.
Right. I don't know why people always want to talk about Ohio State in the offseason. Like, why don't we just ignore that?
Yeah, that's what I did.
And don't think about that. You have to play them.
I kept telling people, don't think about Ohio State right now. Because I knew either we were going to beat them or we were going to lose them, and there'll be plenty of time to talk about Ohio State.
All right, last question from Lucas Powers, longtime listener of the show. Appreciate Lucas, because Lucas and I disagreeing a little bit on the Twitter sphere, and so but he's still a longtime listener, and we appreciate the dialogue. His question: which receiver is going to have a big day? I want to see this team firing in the first half and not falling into the trap game mentality. Shawn, one receiver. Big day. I feel like we've had a similar question like every week, and I don't think we've guessed it right because none of them have had a big day.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm not going to say none and be a smart ass, but maybe this is the week Caden Saunders finally gets more time. I want to see more Caden Saunders. I think that kid could play. And I'm sure there's a reason why he's not playing, and I mean the reason is James Franklin feels more comfortable with the 2 tight ends than he does with the 3rd receiver. I mean,
Yeah.
I think he would tell you that. But I want to see him get in more, and I think one of the ways you might be able to get this run going, and one of the things that I was a little disappointed with, not just in the Ohio State game either, but earlier in the season, we don't spread teams out at all. And sometimes, like Jomo was a big believer in, if you spread teams out, there are going to be less guys in the box. That could lead to more success running the ball. And I feel like that we just don't do that. So I would like to see more Caden Saunders. Do I think, and I think if you do see more of him, I think he'll play well. I don't know if that directly answers the question, though.
Yeah, that's fine. You know what? I have no idea, to be honest with you. Which receiver is going to have a big day? I mean, it's just like reaching your hand in a bag at this point, or in a hat, and seeing which name you pull out, right? I mean, it's just no idea, right? So I want to go Amari Evans again, but since he didn't even play a snap against Ohio State, I was gonna. Let me just finish this thought. I'm gonna take Malik McClain.
Really?
Why not? I know he hasn't played
Sure.
the last month, so maybe he comes in, he's out. Maybe he got hurt and no one's asking about it. I don't know. Maybe he got banged up. That's why
He'd
he
be on the
hasn't
report,
played.
though, wouldn't he?
I don't know how that report works. Maybe
Yeah,
it's
that's
academic. I don't know. Maybe
Yeah.
he comes back against Indiana and has a big game. There's just as good as a percentage chance that Malik McClain has a big game compared to any other receiver right now. You know what I mean? Like, why not? Malik McClain.
Sure.
I wanted to say something though. It was awkward. I think it was Tyler Donahue asked about like why Dante Cephas doesn't play more, and then
Yeah.
Franklin went, well, he started. And he goes, what do you mean he started? He's like, you had 2 tight ends. He goes, well, okay, yeah, but in our 11 personnel, he started. And then I know Tyler Donahue wanted to respond with, yeah, but you didn't go to 11 personnel until like at what point in the game, right? Like a
Well, he
third
kind
and
of
10.
said it. He was like, well, he played like 4 snaps.
Yeah, that's right. He did say
So
Yeah,
yeah, and I think James was like, all right, yeah. Like he didn't answer, but you could just tell he's like, okay, yeah.
Yeah, that
like
was
you know what I mean? Like that's one of the things that I was like, why can we try to spread them out? Maybe just try something instead of, because it did feel like a lot of their runs were telegraphed. Like
Yeah, well,
Theo
every
would go
time
in
they brought-
motion, and
yes,
it was like,
exactly.
I wonder what's gonna happen now.
Exactly. They brought him in twice like that, and it sucked everybody inside, and it was bad there for a second. Anyway, thank you for the fan questions. I'm sure we'll have more on the Monday show. I kind of like having more on Monday and then kind of getting ready for the week that way. I think that's good. Appreciate you guys listening. If you are on YouTube, I apologize for that mini hiccup there. No idea what happened. Maybe a meteor crashed into something at some point. I don't know, but Wi-Fi is good now. If you haven't already, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Appreciate that a lot. And drop your predictions and your bold predictions in the chat, because we're about to jump into that right now. So we want to see what yours are as well. Sean AB had Penn State winning 28-14. His bold predictions that the running backs would have approximately 30-plus touches combined between Allen and Singleton specifically. I think I gave my score prediction last, so you'll give your bold prediction first, and I will give my score prediction first.
All right. So, bold prediction, I think Daquan Hardy gets a defensive touchdown today. Or not today, Saturday. You know, I don't think we've had a defensive touchdown yet. It just kind of feels like we're due. And Daquan Hardy's been Mr. Everything the past couple weeks. I thought he played a fantastic game against Ohio State. He was arguably our best corner in that nickel spot. So I'm going to go Daquan Hardy, pick 6.
You're going to hate yourself in about 2 seconds, because I'm going to remind you that one of your favorite players, Dom DeLuca, had a pick 6.
Damn. Sorry, Dom.
Yep. Go buy a sauce. You owe him a jar of sauce for forgetting about his
I
pick
got to go
6.
buy it now. Yeah, that happened at the most I'm not gonna say
Are
it.
you gonna say the
I was
most
gonna say the
forgettable
most
time?
forgettable time, but really it kind of was. We're up like 48-0 on Delaware.
Sorry, just had to blow it up in your face there.
Good point. Good point.
Keenan Ellis almost kind of did it, and so did Curtis Jacobs, almost kind of, but yeah. Which is that's two defensive touchdowns that have now been brought back for penalties. I feel like that no one has mentioned that yet.
Yeah, yeah. The Ellis one. I was really happy for Keaton Ellis too.
Was
that was UMass?
Who was the defender? Number 29. Why can't I think his name? Freshman. No, it was
Tracy.
No. It was O'Davian Collins, Mississippi State transfer.
Oh, right.
Sorry, it took me a second there. Okay, my bold prediction. I am predicting that the receivers will have 3 touchdowns.
Oh,
Simple as that.
passing game # involved.
Why not? Right. I what AB said I think is a good point as far as like they're not going to change everything, but
Yeah.
I just need to have some sort of optimism going this one. So receivers 3 touchdowns. The tight ends very well could have 3 because that's probably more realistic. But I'm going to be. I already had the 3 tight end ones as my bold prediction before. I'm going to go more bold. I'm going to let the receivers end up with 3.
I love your optimism, Corey.
I was optimistic. I thought the receivers would have 2 explosive plays last week. That did not happen at all. What was your bold prediction? Let me go back in time here.
5 sacks. Not
Oh,
quite.
yeah, 5 sacks. Yep, that's right.
Even though the line played well, didn't have 5 sacks.
No. All right. Score prediction time, Indiana. Don't think this Indiana offense is very good at all. Penn State's back at home. Defense is probably going to be even more pissed off. I think they'll get some turnovers against a -4 turnover team in Indiana. And Penn State's offense gets back in track, at least to a certain degree of being methodical. Like maybe they're not going to be all of a sudden super 2016 explosive, but I think they get back on track. If they do just a decent job, that means they're going to kill the clock. And for that reason, I am taking Penn State to win 42-0. I think they shut out Indiana. They've shut out one team already this year?
2 of them, Iowa and UMass.
Yeah, others 2. Shut out 2 teams already. Why not a third? The Iowa offense is not any worse or better than the Indiana offense, in my opinion. So it's very much on the table.
Either.
And if anything, the Iowa punting team made things a little bit more difficult for Penn State's offense and having to go the whole field. I'm not sure if Indiana's going to do that or not. Rutgers actually blocked an Indiana punt. So anyway, I'm going to take Penn State to win 42-0. I think they shut them out.
Yeah, I think we're thinking along the same lines. I'm going to take Penn State 45-6. This Indiana offense isn't very good. Penn State's defense probably going to feast again. This is probably a week that we do get 5 sacks. So I'm going to take them 45-6. I think the run game is fine. Again, I think they were fine the first few games of the season, first half of the season. I wouldn't call them really good or great or elite or whatever words you want to use. I think they were fine, and I think they get back to that a little bit. I think Drew plays like the home version of Drew, which is takes care of the ball, make good throws, ball placement's better. So I think you're going to see a lot more of that. I can't predict a shot. I'm just not going to do it. I want to see it first. It's kind of like Franklin going into last year going, I'm not going to talk about the offensive line. And I'm going to let you judge it. So I'm not going to call a shot. Maybe this is the week it happens. But I'm not going to predict it.
Fair enough. Kind of a weird week in my opinion. I mean, it's kind of getting back on track here a little bit. It's probably been a little bit of a weird week for the players as well because, I did not do as much Indiana prep as I did Ohio State prep. And I'm guessing it's human nature. I'm guessing the players didn't either.
Oh, I did. Bring it 100 all the time, man.
That's right. I'm sorry. I will do better next time. How about that? I'm hopefully you guys hear me better on the podcast. I figured out I was doing something wrong with my mic this whole time. So hopefully you guys appreciate me figuring that out. Make sure, hey, if you've made it this far in the show, go give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. We haven't had one of those in like 10,000 years. So somebody go do that. And we will be back on Monday to recap Indiana and get ourselves ready for Maryland. So thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you for being here. And we will be back on Monday. For Shawn Kane, I'm Cory Lestochi. You have been listening to Hardcore Penn State Football. Thank you, everybody.